mountains, and our freedom is staged.
Good evening and welcome to Tuesday Folk People. My name is Maddie Leadham, and this evening we're going to be talking to the talented singer-songwriter Katie Blount. Both a singer and a songwriter from a young age, Katie's sound is recognisably Americana. Her original songs captivate the listener, leaving them with no choice but to sit in a moment of reflection and find the deeper meaning behind them. Having released her debut album Dark Water in 2020, Katie has built up a solid online following and has plans to release her second album soon. For this Tuesday Folk People session, as well as hearing some of Katie's mouth-wateringly rich original songs, we're going to exploring her motivations and stories. So I think that it's now time that we welcome Katie Blount to our online studio. Hi Katie, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very excited for this interview. And I want to start today with exploring your sound. You grew up with quite a musical family. How much influence has that had on you as a professional musician?
Yeah, I think it was really, really influential because I don't think I would have really got kind of my voice and the way I sing mainly if I hadn't started really, really young. Like my dad had a little studio and we used to go in there, and it was a very basic studio. It was kind of like one of those old reel-to-reel tapes with a mixing desk, and that was about it. And we'd have to stand on these little stools to reach the microphone, me and my sister, and either like we made up a song, or it was like a nursery song, or he'd written a song, and we'd just sing them in his studio. And at that time I just really, 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 really loved singing, and I just used to sing every day, all day. And I think that, like, I didn't know that I was kind of getting a voice, if you know what I mean, in that time. I just did it because I liked it. And then when I was about 15, somebody handed me like a Joni Mitchell album, and I just knew that was the kind of, like, I wanted to be a kind of singer-songwriter who wrote kind of those kind of words. But my dad also, like, he'd written this song called Silver Star. And that was really influential as well, because it was different to kind of his other songs, and like the words and everything. And I was thinking actually recently that I might cover it and put it on YouTube. But I've got to ask him first. But yeah, I think it was just really influential in terms of like how my singing style and how I sing, and how I didn't really know I was kind of getting a style, but it was just kind of slowly coming about that way.
And with regards to the Joni Mitchell CD, would you say that she was sort of the influential factor in you becoming a folk musician in the actual folk genre?
Yeah, I think so, because I just really liked the way, especially that whole 60s, you know, like Leonard Cohen, Joni Mitchell, Bob Dylan, just that whole kind of like their internal world was kind of put out in a song. And I guess obviously that is quite popular now, but I still think there's a lot of room and maneuver in that, in terms of making it something more than perhaps is already out there, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I think what Joni Mitchell showed me is like her voice for me was like really like it kind of went kind of up and down, and it kind of moved in this really kind of like, and I felt like my voice was kind of capable of doing that, and I kind of naturally gravitated towards that because it kind of felt like that was how I naturally did it too. And then so that's kind of why I was drawn to her. And also she just had that kind of very kind of thing in her voice where she had a kind of sorrowfulness and a kind of longing kind of thing in her voice, which I kind of really was drawn to.
And I think you get that in your songs, as our audience will hear throughout the course of the interview. I think in all of your songs there's this kind of deeper sense in your voice. It's not just a shallow voice singing a pretty tune. There is something deeper in there. So and I love Joni Mitchell. So the fact that you kind of emulate that a bit, it's amazing to me.
Cool.
And you fit very much into the Americana category. How did that come about? When did you become an Americana musician?
Yeah, that was kind of a bit by accident, really. I mean, I took a trip to America in my very early 20s, where I didn't really, like at that time, although I knew I wanted to be a singer-songwriter, and I was kind of like, I'd just come out of uni, and I was kind of like, didn't really know what I was doing with my life pretty much. And I took this trip to America. I went there for like 3 months and traveled by train all around. And I think because I didn't really believe in myself at that point. And I went to America, obviously, like the land of dreams, and, you know, everything's possible. And I think that's why I was so drawn to the place. And when I got there and I talked to people about what I wanted to do, everyone was like, yeah, you should do it. I don't think I met a single person who said, don't follow your dream. You know, it was kind of like everybody said, you've got to do it. And so when I returned, I was like, right, I've got to do this. How am I going to do this? And then because I'd kind of decided that that's what I was going to do, suddenly all these things started showing up in my life, like the right people and the right kind of like things that was kind of showing me a way forward. And I think a few years later, this experience that I had in America, where I met somebody on a train and he kind of told me his whole life story. This kind of started to come about in a song, and I wrote the American song. And I think this is where this kind of Americana, because it just like, I'd written actually the words. Normally I write the melody and then the words come, but I'd written the words first, or like at least like a verse or something. And then I tried to get the melody, and because I did it that way round, it's kind of like I got a kind of different style almost with it. So I think that's how this Americana sound kind of came about.
I heard there's nothing at the end between your last breath and the time I'm left. No day or night, no love, no grief, no memories, fever their way out of me. Paintings we hung have drawn themselves free. Photographs we captured have found their liberty. Our love once mirrored now has no more reply. Staring back at me, your Orion Sky. Take me with you when you go. Take me with you when you leave. You ain't coming back. My voice cannot try to write a song when even sorrow don't know how to belong. Please tell our history, there's no more to make. When there ain't no future, then we can wait. Take me with you when you go. Take me with you when you leave. Tell me, how can I find you? Although I knew everything needs to end, somehow I thought forever could try to pretend. Our time, nothing more than grains of sand. Your hourglass heart I carried in my hands. Take me with you when you go. called you home.
What is your main focus in your songwriting? Because you are predominantly a singer-songwriter as an artist.
Yes. I think like the words are really, really important for me, and kind of I like, kind of when I was younger, I kind of really liked getting to know people and kind of getting to understand how they tick and why they are the way they are, and kind of getting into like the deeper issues of why they really are the way they are, not just who they are on the surface or who they appear to be. And I think maybe that's kind of like comes out in my songwriting a bit, where there's kind of like, I think somebody said that there's a story underneath the story with my songs. And I think that's true. Like, it's like I'm kind of giving maybe like what it looks like on the surface, but then underneath there's something else that's there, if that makes sense. So that's really influential. And I think just the songwriting and the writing for me, like I feel like I need to have something that is a lot deeper, like like Orion Sky and Dark Water are pretty simple lyrically and stuff, but then there's those other songs like Tap Dancing to the Blues, or the American Song, or The Lost Conversation, where I just feel like I can kind of go deeper in what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to bring out.
Yeah, because you've described yourself as a poet, and so I was going to kind of delve into that idea of how important the lyrics were to you, and obviously you've said that the actual writing itself and the words are really important. Is the melody important to you, or is that just kind of a secondary feature?
No, I mean, the melody is really important. I mean, I started off probably as my journey's gone on, I've started off as a singer. Then I was like, I want to get into the writing. And then I really started to get into just like delving deeper into the words. But the melody, I love kind of like the unusualness of Dark Water, and I love Orion Sky's kind of simplicity. And so there's kind of like, there's that simplicity in the melody that I really, really like. But then there's also like that side where there's kind of maybe something more unusual happens. And it's kind of like, I feel like I try to do both of, well, I don't really try, but it's just like, I like doing both of those things. Like at one point I thought maybe I had to choose between the two, but then I just thought, well, why don't I just do both? Because I like doing both. So
yeah. And what is it you're hoping to achieve through your music? Is it kind of more like a personal thing, or are you actually writing with the audience in mind?
Yeah, I don't think I write with an audience in mind. I've always just thought like if I wrote what I enjoyed writing, there would hopefully be an audience for that. And I've never really been the kind of person who can write for an audience. Like I did go through a stage in my late 20s where I was really trying to write certain things, and I had a kind of block. Like I couldn't access the place that I had usually accessed before. Yeah. And so therefore this kind of trying thing kind of took over, and I was trying so hard and failing terribly at writing songs at that time. And I was just writing the worst stuff I'd ever written. And I was really questioning, like, what if I've just made the wrong choice? But I realized after a while it was because I was trying too hard. Yeah. And there was a kind of perfectionistic element that was coming in that was stopping me from just writing anything and letting it all come out, and then kind of like deciphering what's good and not good and all of those kind of things.
Katrina unwinding, carrying her scorn, fleeing the pain of her own enemy storm, holding on to freedom as if it were all we could own. Riding their sleeper like a white horse in flight, scuffing heels through every crossing we fight. 'Cause then I wondered why your eyes was open. Caught your mirror of words reflecting back someone I could not trust in me, bleeding me free. Your thoughts spilled over, flooding your mind. I heard them escape before escape was denied, teaching the meaning of shame in your confessions. You fear was something more than you could make sense. You felt it cut the bone of your splintered defense as your story lay open, ready to be stolen. Caught your mirror of words reflecting back someone I could not find in me, leading me free. Saw your father standing with scars in his hands, showing you his injured love, seek revenge, offering each blow as if they hold some kind of glory. Your mother in the corner, her shadow buried alive, viciously demeaning any rescue she tried, as your cuts reveal loves, a bitter rage repeating. Caught your mirror of words reflecting back someone I cannot feel in me, bleeding me free. Knew where this was going, could feel from your light deception promising you a soul justified. A fist for a fist, a wound for a wound, the love and love kills. Now I look up, see the ice crack your eye, convincing everyone it's tears from your cry. You're just another boy who thinks he's a red-blooded carbon. Caught your mirror of words reflecting back someone who is lost in me, bleeding me free. Your love is still waiting for the reason to appear, lingering on the last moment to come clear why you could never say why you were leaving. She thinks she sees your face on the billboard of Ninth, where there was a sale of a lover for a bribe. Did you take the money? Tell me, did it feel like forgiveness? Caught your mirror of words reflecting back someone I could not love in me, bleeding me free.
A significant moment in your career was when you turned 32 and had what you've described as a spiritual awakening. What do you mean by this?
What I mean by it is that it was kind of a realization that I think we go along in life for a long time just believing that we're not questioning who we really are. Yeah. We might question the psychology of who we are, you know, like especially if we're going through a rough patch or something, then we tend to kind of think, oh, why am I feeling like this? Or why do I think like this? But the spiritual awakening for me was more that I realized that I wasn't my thoughts and I wasn't my body, and that I was a kind of spiritual being living life, if that makes sense, through a body and through the mind. But I wasn't those things. That what I was came before those things.
Yeah, like that question I think you suggested last time of who were you before your parents gave you your name or something like that.
Right, exactly. That's kind of how my spiritual awakening came about, because I watched this Muji video, and I'd been really, really searching frantically for just, I didn't really know what I was searching for, but I was like searching for something, and I was reading books, and I'd read the occasion, like I'm not a big book reader, but I read the occasional book. But this time I was kind of like scouring the internet, scouring books, like trying to find something. And then I came across this video by Muji, and one of the questions he asked in it was, who were you before your parents gave you your name? And it was just like one of those really mind-blowing moments where I just suddenly, it just started a whole kind of loads of events after that. I started questioning everything.
Because it's one of those where you start to think about that question. And if you think too hard, well, personally, if I think too hard, I'm like, oh my God. And I get this existential crisis almost about what is the universe and who am I? And how did this kind of awakening affect your music?
I think I started to look at the world in a completely different way. Like I started to see, it's like I had taken a step back and I could see it without being necessarily a part of it, if that makes sense. And I think that's how the Alchemy of Modern Times came about, because I could suddenly see that there was all of these things, like it was almost like I saw the world as a play or a dream. And I don't know if you've ever had like a lucid dream where you're aware that you're awake inside the dream. It was kind of like that. So, and I felt like that I could suddenly see the mechanics of it all, and that it was, and that we were missing the most vital ingredient, and that we weren't any of it, and we needed to kind of step back from it and see it. And I guess, that's how that song came about.
So is there like a really clear shift then in music before the awakening and then music after? Can you actually just really clearly see that you changed as a person?
Yes, definitely. But I think definitely like, because I wrote this first album at like different points of my life, it's like different songs at different times. I feel like probably there's going to be more that you might notice that shift more in the next album, I think, just in terms of what I'm writing, if you know what I mean.
And that album we will be exploring a bit later, so people might see the kind of things that they would expect from Darkwater. And would you say then that your songwriting now is almost your way of trying to get your head around these existential questions about the universe?
Definitely. It's just kind of, I feel like kind of metaphysics or mysticism or whatever you want to call it. Like I've never really been interested in a subject as much as this subject. And I just feel like that is naturally going to come through into the songwriting. And I don't really know how it's going to do that. Or, like I can see kind of like in some of the songs I'm writing at the moment, like, but I don't know where it's going to go eventually. But I definitely think it's going to have a big influence down the line.
There are no more answers in this story we have made, where the rope tongue loosens and our freedom is staged. The cast do where the show vanish inside their charade, turn their fear to money where their money has a veil. When you think you know them, they appear as if from a dream, with a face you don't recognize, stealing your teeth for jewelry. When there's no more answers, they'll revive our misery, spinning tales of two sides, each believing they're the one God chose to win the fight. While they sell tomorrow from a second-hand suitcase, Your tears oil their narrow wheels like the past hasn't once paid. Who sees beyond the curtain, behind the mirror, turning wild? Who's pointing it to phony sideshows of numb hearts? When there's no more answers, you who ask no questions inside vague sounds of war, follow voices raging till you're worshipping the sword. Those who are sleeping on the raw tear-stained winds awaken to despair, now bleeding inside of them. When there's no more answers, but those who watch with silent eyes behind the scenes of their mind, those who feel their phantom limb sensing each reply, turn their pain to freedom in the alchemy of modern times.
You released your debut album, Dark Waters, in January 2020. What would people expect to find in that album?
I think it's going to be songs about, it's a very introspective album, I think. So it's very kind of, I think you'd maybe put it on when you're alone in your house, or lots of people have said actually they've listened to it in their cars. I don't know if this is because like CD players are kind of rare nowadays and that's the only place you have a CD player in your car, but lots of people have come back and told me I listened to it in my car whilst I was driving down the road and the sun was coming up and it was like, you know, that kind of thing. But I think they would just expect just something that perhaps runs a little bit deeper than a lot of other albums, something that's kind of introspective and maybe is going to make you feel things deeply and maybe think things deeply on some kind of level, maybe.
And it's made up of like songs that you've been writing since you began writing. Have I got that right?
Yeah, in a way. Like I wrote the song Dark Water when I was not. I wrote the melody to Dark Water when I was 19, and I had the same chorus, but all the verses were different, and I hated the words. And I'd sing it at uni and people would like it and they'd be like, I love that song. And I was like, yeah, but the lyrics are rubbish and I've got to do something with it. And I just put it in a drawer and I was like, it's just, and then, yeah, later on, it kind of got pulled out of the drawer. And I just thought, I've got to figure out what this song is really about. And I had the chorus, and the chorus seemed to that was the only part that made sense. And the rest of it just didn't make any sense. So I kind of went from there and realized that it was kind of about, you know, not being seen, you know, and that's kind of how I started on that one. Yeah. The American song, yeah, that was kind of more in my late 20s because of the whole, I'd come out of the trip to America. And then, yeah, the Alchemy of Modern Times, that was like, again, you know, after I'd had that spiritual awakening. So there are some, but then I think the main period was really around 32 because I'd finally got into more of a flow state, you know, like in my late 20s, I was going through this really bad period of not being able to write. So then when I got into my 30s, it was like finally that was all kind of, you know, relaxing and I could kind of get into it again and I didn't have all that blockage. So I think it was kind of like I've had a few along the way which kind of kept me going. Yeah. It's like, yes, I can do this. And then finally it was like, okay, now it's actually working. Yeah. If that makes sense.
And what kind of themes would people find in the album?
I think freedom is definitely one, I guess, like with the American song. But I think when I was younger, like I was looking for kind of like, I liked traveling and I liked experiences and things. And so I think that kind of looking for freedom, I guess, but maybe not in the right places, kind of comes about. I think also like I do try and come from a very honest place, you know, no matter how difficult it is to maybe write about something or I always try to make sure that it's emotionally right, even if the story is like, even if like the story comes more from my imagination. So I think like freedom and truth and maybe there's some kind of spiritual element in there too, but I don't really know how you'd give it a theme.
Yeah, there's amazing themes there though. And to be driving on the road with the sunset, listening to an album that
Yeah,
explores those themes, it sounds perfect, idyllic.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Or maybe when it's raining or
Oh,
something, I think that
yeah,
would be quite
any weather
atmospheric.
really, just driving
Yeah.
on the road. Brilliant. You suggested to me previously after releasing Dark Water that the whole kind of model and kind of set way that artists release their music, where they get all their songs together in an album and then release it every year, every couple of years or whatever, is maybe a bit outdated and needs to change. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, I think ever since social media has taken over, I think there's a desire for content, like people just want content, content, content. And I think the thing with the old system of releasing every 2 years is that you release something, everybody buys the album or listens to it on Spotify, and then you might do some, gigs and all of that. But then it kind of all dies down again. And then, 2 years later, you're doing the same thing. And I think it's harder actually to keep the momentum going. I think if you're kind of putting out content a lot of the time and maybe you're kind of teasing out your album next time. So maybe you release like one song over a year, that's 12 songs for the whole year. And then people buy it after that year.
Ah,
That kind of
yeah.
thing. I think that would be like, I think that is the way it's going to go. But obviously, I don't know if that's going to work for every kind of artist because I think it really just depends on what kind of writer you are. Because a lot of people, maybe they're not going to be able to do like one song a month. But it just depends, I think. But I think it would be interesting to kind of explore that.
Yeah, definitely. And to be honest, I was going to ask you a tough question and say, if you were to release a song like every month or something, how then do you
Yeah.
manage to get that narrative sense that often people get in an album? But you kind of answered that yourself in that the album is available at the end.
Yeah,
It's just released separately. So
exactly. I mean, I think it would be like, if you think about it, like people are probably writing their songs for an album over a 2-year period at the very least. So it's the same thing. It's just that you're just packaging it differently and you're putting it out there and making it available. And maybe like, I mean, I know with like my Facebook group and stuff, people are interested in, sometimes more than just the songs, like how did you write this or what was the inspiration for that? And I think there's more room for the artist to be in control of like how they're releasing stuff rather than say that traditional record label way of doing things.
yeah. And is that something that you want to explore then in the future?
I think it might be something I explore. I definitely like the idea of putting out things kind of sporadically over time and also putting out more than an album, like how else can you connect people to your work and what you've done and that kind of thing does interest me, but I don't really know how I would do it yet. That's the only thing. But yeah, I definitely think it's an interesting way of thinking about
100%. And I suppose it's even better almost for professional musicians because then they've not got that short period of time to tour. They've got this whole prolonged time where they're releasing all the songs separately. And that's
there's more, you can have more time in the kind of buzz of the album release.
very interesting. Food for thought on that one.
Yeah, definitely.
So what sort of things should we expect from you in the future?
Well, I'm working on another album right now and I am hoping to get it out this year, but I don't know if it's going to happen yet, but I'm hoping that's going to happen. But also I am also creating an album video to go with it. And so I'm hoping to release like the next CD will be kind of like music and like a DVD kind of thing. And the video is going to be kind of like a kind of backdrop to the songs, if you know what I mean. Like, it's not necessarily going to be like a documentary style, like how it came about. It's going to be more of a story kind of driven thing. Well, I'm kind of thinking that way at the moment, but I've just started it, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. And if people want to like find out where that is when it's released and sort of stuff, where do they need to look?
Well, they could go to my website, which is katieblount.com, or my Facebook group, which is Katie Blount Live, and in the group section. And I'm on YouTube. I mean, my main channels are Facebook group, YouTube, and TikTok. They're basically my main channels. But yeah, you can contact me through Instagram or other ones.
Because that's another thing you're working on and looking to work on in the future, is that more online presence, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the pandemic, kind of forced me online in a way, but it was kind of a good move because I've kind of discovered just this whole online world, and it's just kind of opened up a lot of new avenues and a lot of other things that I possibly wouldn't have done before. But and I've, it's like, it's quite an intimate way of knowing your audience as well, because people comment on things and you get into conversations, and like people request songs on my Facebook group, and sometimes I do covers and things like that.
Yeah.
Or I put out at least 3 covers on my Facebook group. And sometimes people ask for like album reviews and what do you think of this, and it's like you're kind of always continually sharing with people, and I think that's really nice. It's really, yes, it's like a community feel, and that's really cool.
Yeah. And because you also do, I saw on your YouTube that you're releasing videos of you in picturesque places and stuff performing.
Yeah, that's right. So I go round mainly in London or in Essex, because I'm kind of in between those 2 places. And so recently I went to Westminster and I did a song outside Westminster, and I went to the Tower of London, and the Tower Bridge and all of those places. I mean, Tower Bridge just looks amazing no matter what you do in front of it. It's so beautiful. So yeah, I try to find really beautiful places, but sometimes, just a park, or, just a nice sunset, or a river, or a lake, or, nature.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Oh, and so people should expect to see more of that in the future, as well as...
Yeah, because I'm basically building up online with my covers, and then also putting out my original material. So that they're the 2 kind of things that I mainly do.
Amazing. Well, unfortunately, we have come to the end of our interview. And I want to say, just before we go to our final song, a huge thank you, Katie, for joining us this evening. It's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you. And
thanks for inviting me. It's been fun.
An absolute pleasure.
I knew it was over when you gave me a glimpse into your eyes, and nothing was returned. No bridges to cross from your silence to mine. No rumor of sorrow from the strangers in your mind. Where do you go in the daylight of all your fears? Do they sharpen memories to remind you now how losing really feels? Or do they foresee something in the waters now revealed? So with I can't remember a single word of my surrender. Dark water is coming through, coming through. Crawling over my old skin that you once knew. If only we could exchange a memory into the moment, then we could bring back the old and conquer the new. Dark water is coming, coming through. Can you see it clear, though you don't know the sound, from the distance of regret? If your heart could speak, what language would it use? Would you tell me scenes that we played? You were rehearsing your desires for someone you don't yet know. Dark water is coming through, coming through. Crawling over my old skin that you once knew. If only we could exchange a memory into the moment, then we could bring back the old and conquer the new. Dark water is coming, coming through.
Thank you very much for watching. To find out more information about our future Tuesday Folk People sessions, please sign up to our mailing list or keep an eye on our social media and website. Our next session will be a week from today at 8 p.m. See you then.
300 years